What if Deku had Overhaul Part 2? Before I do get into this video, I would just like to say thank you all for all the donations that you guys have given me, as there are two what ifs in line that are going to be made after this what if and after what if Deku was from the hood. The first one being what if Deku was the son of Mount Lady, and the next one being what if Deku had the X-Men's powers. Now, where I start this off, Izuku was a very happy boy up until his 4th birthday, where, like normal, he was energetic, very excited, and couldn't wait to get his quirk. Now, when they went to the quirk doctor said that his quirk is going to be a strong one, but they can't quite predict what it can be or do. All they know is that he's going to get a strong quirk within this week or the next. Now, when Izuku and his mom are going back to his house, Inko congratulates Izuku on how strong his quirk's going to be, and that is Izuku's one of the last times Izuku would ever be happy. When they got home, Inko said she will cook dinner, with Izuku saying thanks, Mom. Now, once dinner was ready, Izuku would walk down to the stairs, as Inko would hand Izuku a bowl of food, to which Izuku would go to grab it, as one of his fingers would slip and touch Inko, and completely without realizing it, his quirk would activate, as Inko is completely splattered all over the floor, disassembled. Izuku, in shock, just looks down at his mom and says, Mom, what happened? As Izuku reaches down to go touch some of the body parts of his mother, as he thinks maybe if he can deassemble things, he can put them back together. As Izuku puts his hand on part of his mother's flesh, as she reconstructs, completely horrified at what Izuku just did to her, as she yells at Izuku to get out and that he must leave. Izuku then walks out crying, not knowing what could possibly be wrong with him, as he walks the streets alone, having nowhere to go. Now, Izuku would then be taken in by a mob boss, which is basically what happened to Overhaul, taken in by a mob boss, to which I forgot this mob boss's name, but they would end up teaching Izuku and ask Izuku what the number one thing Izuku wanted to do, which was be a hero. Which the mob boss said if he wanted to be a hero, he'll have to leave at the age of 13 to go pursue his dreams. To which Izuku then would train for just about 9 years, studying and training with this mob boss until he was strong enough with his quirk to completely use it on will, as he's almost just as strong as Overhaul would have been in canon. Now, this is the point where I'd want to ask you, should Overhaul still exist in this universe? Should the character Kai Hisaki, I think it was, I don't know, still exist and lead the 8 perceptions of death? And should Izuku get one for all? That is the questions, comment them down below. Now, after this, Izuku would end up leaving the mob at the age of 13, where he'd go out and scavenge for food, just the way that Izuku spent the last year with the mob, so he would know what he'd have to do before the UA exam when he was 14. So, waiting a year scavenging for food and sleeping in the wild, the day would come for when he would go to the UA entrance exam, as he would easily do the written exam, as it was now time for the practical exam. Izuku would line up with the rest of the students participating. As the gates would open, Izuku would run into the gates with people obviously just standing there confused, as President Mike would yell for them to follow that kid, as being a hero, you never wait for a start or someone to say go, as Izuku would already have destroyed all of the main robots in that area, running at them and touching them with just one tiny finger, keeping his movements as smooth as possible so he could maximize his points. He'd run by a robot and barely touch it, as someone would go to try and destroy it, but it'd already just blow up in their face. Izuku would just keep running and running, as Izuku would then have destroyed a ton of robots, getting him around 120 points. Then, all of a sudden, he hears the ground shake as he looks up to see a massive robot charging at him. Izuku thinks it might be a little risky, but he'll try it. He slams his hand down onto the ground or the road as many of the students look at him like he's insane. But all of a sudden, a massive spike goes from out of the road, piercing it through the robot's chest area as Izuku would run up this rock spike, and then he would jump down to where the girl was, pick her up, and give her to Ida, seeing as Ida has some type of engine quirk, as Izuku would tell Ida to run and get as far away as possible. Now after that, Izuku would put his hand on the 0 pointer as it would completely disassemble into tiny nuts and bolts, as Izuku would then reassemble them into 3 pointers, as Izuku would then destroy those, not knowing if that would count as his points or not, to which the UA teachers would think that is pretty smart of him to try and maximize his points by putting back into 3 pointers, which was kind of weird how he knew they were made out of 1, 2, and 3 pointer parts, but they all pretty much look the same. Now 2 weeks pass, as Izuku hears rustling in the bushes as he goes to look, as he sees Aizawa there looking through the forest, as he says, "You're that kid from the entrance exam, right?" As Izuku says, "Yep," only to have Aizawa tell him to come with him, as Izuku would follow Aizawa until they would get to UA. Now, from this point, Izuku would go to the principal's office to meet with Principal Nezu, as Aizawa tells Nezu that Izuku doesn't have a home to stay in, as he would just found him in the woods, to which Nezu says, "I knew something was up when he put the forest as his home. I guess we'll just have to do dorms then." As the first day arrives for UA, with Izuku already moved into the dorms, as Aizawa would walk in with all the students there, as he'd say, "I was going to test you all on this first day, but that will have to wait. Due to one of the students living in the forest, we've had to build dorms. I know that may sound strange to you, but this is a supernatural world. We will go around asking your parents for a week, as you have the next week off, and we've already asked some of your parents if you can live in dorms, with many of them saying yes. We'd just like you to stay at home until we end up getting permission from your parents for you to move in, and then you can move in and have the rest of the week off." Now, since the USJ incident never happened yet, or the training camp incident didn't happen yet, many of the parents were a lot easier to just ask them if they can move into dorms completely free of charge, which all of them would end up saying yes. Inko would remember, she basically just left Izuku out. She didn't like him because of the horrifying experience that happened to her. I can already see a lot of people in the comments saying, "Why you always do that to Inko? Why do you always make her look like the bad guy?" I don't know. It's a habit. Now, Izuku would end up already being in those dorms, basically just sleeping on the couch, with many people moving in the same day, having gotten their parents' permission already, as they're wondering, what the heck is this person sleeping on the couch, as he wasn't there in Class 1A, so many of them thought he was just some random dude or a villain, as Momo just randomly walked up to him and said, "Hey, why are you just sleeping on that couch?" As Izuku says, "Huh? Oh, I've been here for a week or 2. I don't know. They said since I lived in the forest, they had to build dorms or something, and then I can stay here." As Momo says, so you're the person that lived in the forest. Interesting. Very interesting. As she would walk away. Now, that week would end up passing as they all go back to UA for their technically first day of school that they actually do work. With it, Aizawa giving them a test to test their abilities. Now, Izuku having Overhaul, which is not the greatest test to do with this, but it is a very powerful quirk. Now, Izuku would basically get average scores like many of my what ifs that I've been making in the past couple weeks, as they haven't really had strength enhancing quirks like my first what if with What If Deku was a legendary Super Saiyan, which I might actually redo. That'd be quite interesting. So after that, Izuku wouldn't be expelled. No one would, for the sake of my memory, as everyone would walk back to the dorms saying how scary it was that they could have almost gotten expelled. As Momo said, but he wouldn't have expelled us, right? As Izuku just laughs and says, no, when I was walking with him after he found me in the forest, he said that he once expelled the whole class because he didn't find any potential in them. It's quite sad, really, that a whole lot of heroes or up-and-coming heroes that people want to be don't have potential. I bet he deemed some of you without potential and just decided to keep you here, like that short guy. As Monetta's like, huh? Me? What'd I do? As Izuku just says, exactly. As they all walk back into their dorms, waiting for the next day. Many weeks pass with them just doing normal testing exercises, up until Aizawa says that today they will be doing some real hero training. As they wait for what's about to happen, as All Might says that today they are going to be doing a Heroes vs. Villains assignment, and that to get their hero suits on, and then they will pick teams. Now, the first team is Izuku and Uraraka. The next team, Bakugo and Ida. Now, Bakugo and Ida are the heroes this time, as Izuku waits for All Might to give them the bomb. After this, Izuku then places the bomb on the top floor, and then he puts his hand down on the ground of the building of the top floor, completely rearranging the entire building's walls, as he would start with the top floor, basically just completely getting rid of the stairs and make a ceiling where they were, get rid of the doorway and put a doorway somewhere else leading to nothing, basically making them completely impossible to get to unless they went by windows, only for Izuku to completely disassemble them, putting them in almost a completely dark room. Only the flashing lights of the fake bomb would shine, as Izuku would stand there waiting for something to happen. Now, Bakugo would spend 15 minutes walking around getting severely frustrated, as there was no way up through any of the floors. All he would have to do is just walk around through the maze at the bottom and second floor, and once he'd try to get to the third one, he wouldn't find anything. Completely sweating with all of his anger, when there was only 10 seconds left, he'd get severely mad and just say, screw this, I'll find another way up, as he'd pull the pin on his grenade gauntlet and send a massive explosion barreling towards the 5th floor, to which Izuku would hear it, as he'd basically dive and push Uraraka out of the way with him, as a massive explosion would just come right through the middle of the floor, or the 5th floor, as time would stop, as Izuku would poke his head through the hole and just smile down at Bakugo waving, to which Bakugo would get even more pissed off, to which Izuku would then put his hand on the ground, as the concrete would then reassemble and close the hole in the floor, as Izuku would hear a thud at the bottom of that floor, or the ceiling of the 4th floor, as he'd wonder what could that have possibly been. Must have been Bakugo hitting his head trying to get up here. That's quite sad, as Izuku would rearrange the entire building to basically put stairs going down the side, as Izuku would walk down the stairs, basically with a victorious smile, or basically just trying to make Bakugo as mad as possible. Now, Izuku doesn't like Bakugo. I mean, he's basically never met him, but it's something about Bakugo's attitude just made Izuku not like him from the start. So Izuku would just try to make Bakugo as mad as possible this entire time. Now, after this, the UA staff says that they will be going on a field trip to test their quirks, as they're halfway through the year and have only been doing very small quirk training exercises, and that they will also be doing this training camp in the summer as well. So they all get on a bus, as they are kicked off the bus and are forced to basically crawl or find their way to the training camp, to which Izuku was able to catch himself on the ledge, as he would put his hand on the ledge and assemble a staircase up onto the roadside as the bus would speed off. He yells for all of his classmates to hurry up if they think they're going to follow the bus, as most of them are able to get up there in time, as they all start running, very faintly following a bus in the distance that many of them can't see. As Izuku keeps on running, as they eventually, after 2 hours of straight running, which is around a marathon type of time, they end up getting it to the summer camp, or basically training camp, not a summer camp yet, as they're wondering what are they doing here. Aizawa says that over the summer, them in Class 1B will be up here training hard, and that they need some training experience before that, as they're Class 1A and are the more advanced hero student group. So they end up training as hard as they can for the next 3 weeks that they are up there, pretty much almost a month up in the mountains with them. The villains would never attack, as they don't even know what's going on yet, to which once they were over and they'd all go back to UA, it was reported on that they had a training camp for almost a month, as that would be reported on, and Shigaraki would slam his fist down and say that could have been the perfect time to attack. All of them up in the mountains, no heroes would be able to get there in time. As Kurogiri would just pat Shigaraki's back and said, we can try to get it next time if they do something like that again. As Shigaraki says, try and see where they're going, where that was held, so we can attack it if they ever go there again. Which Kurogiri then says, yes, sir. Now, after this 2 weeks pass, as Aizawa tells them, they're going to be doing the UA Sports Festival, and that it will be held in 2 weeks' time, and that they need to train for it, and that they will be holding training classes if anyone wants to participate in them. Now, the UA Sports Festival would end up being said on the news about what would happen, as many heroes would also be there protecting it, as Kurogiri would suggest attacking it, to which Shigaraki says, "Are you stupid, Kurogiri? We'd get ambushed immediately and thrown in jail." Now, after that, the sports festival would occur. Izuku and his class would end up participating in it. Now, Izuku would end up being the UA first year representative, as he would walk up there and say that he wants everyone to try their best to beat him and his class, and don't have everyone think that Class 1A is the best, as you all have an opportunity to get up into Class 1A if you prove yourself stronger than some of the kids in the class. to which many people cheer, mostly Class 1B, wanting to get into Class 1A. Now, after this, Izuku would end up lining up with the rest of the students to participate in a race. This race would be the first event, as they'd all line up, basically being prepared for the race to start. Izuku being in the front as he hears President Mike yell go, as Izuku would slam his hand onto the ground as he's already in front of most of the kids and completely block off the entranceway into solid concrete as they're forced to try and smash the concrete, and many people with strong quirks were in the front and got past, leaving some of the weaker kids to try and break out. Like if someone like Todoroki or Bakugo was in there, they could have probably broken it. But with some of the smaller quirks, say like let's say Kirishima, he wouldn't be able to get out, maybe. But Kaminari wouldn't, as they all run and the first event occurs with these very small 30 group of people, as they'd all end up passing 0-pointers as they are pretty much some of the strongest kids. Now at this point, all the kids stuck behind the solid wall would end up walking back to their locker rooms, basically defeated, not having any place to go since they already know they're not going to win the race, as the people are already halfway through, as Izuku would end up getting first place in the race. Now after this, since there was so little people, the cavalry battle would have just gone skipped, as they would replace it with another event, an event kids that got blocked off could try to get back into the race, as they'd wait only for it to be revealed as the cavalry battle. Yeah, the one team with the highest points will get to go to the final round, as the team with the highest points just happened to be Shinso's team. Now after this, Izuku is actually going to be versing Shinso, as Shinso would try to talk to Izuku and how his parents must have been so proud. But Izuku, hearing this, would try to yell that his parents are dead to him, only to have Shinso say, "Gotcha, wait, what?" completely forgetting about using his quirk, as Izuku would say, "Yeah, my parent abandoned me after I accidentally killed her with my quirk and then reassembled her." Now watch, as Izuku puts his hand on the arena, as the middle of it is completely deassembled and then reassembled, as Izuku says he can do that to any living organism and non-living organism. And when his quirk activated, he accidentally did that to his mother, and she basically just yelled at him to never speak to her again, and that she has no son. As Shinso says, "Damn, what a rough childhood." As Izuku says, "I know, you have a lot of potential. You should have tried to train your body so you can at least have some other form of defense and not leave yourself open." As Izuku would punch Shinso right in the face, sending him flying back into the back wall, knocking Shinso unconscious, giving Izuku the win. As Izuku would walk back, waiting for the second event to occur, with Izuku versus Todoroki. Izuku would eventually end up defeating Todoroki, as Izuku would just form a wall of concrete between himself and Todoroki, with Todoroki's ice smashing on impact against Izuku's concrete wall, with Izuku basically using his quirk to build a tunnel in the blind eye of Todoroki, not being able to see over the wall, as Izuku would get behind Todoroki, as Todoroki, completely unsuspecting, would continue to try and throw ice at the wall, only for Izuku to come up right behind Todoroki and cover Todoroki's mouth until he goes unconscious, completely defenseless, with Izuku completely outsmarting one of the strongest and smartest kids in Class 1A. After that, the semifinals occur, with Izuku winning as well. Now, this leaves Izuku versus Bakugo. Izuku knew that the cement wall would easily break, and Bakugo could easily just fly over it using his explosions. So he needed another type of plan. But what type of plan could he use? He thinks for a moment until he realizes he could possibly just try and use his spikes to make the ground a lot more rocky, which could possibly upset Bakugo's footing and cause him to be off balance. So once they walk up to the arena and stand there, President Mike yells "Go!" as Izuku slams his hand onto the floor as the ground is immediately spiked up and it just starts to crack as Izuku would run at Bakugo, with Bakugo running at Izuku. Bakugo not having training in hopping from rock to rock, Izuku having been trained by a mob boss, basically was trained in almost anything he could have been trained in. Izuku would hop from rock to rock, easily using this arena at his advantage, as Izuku would capitalize on Bakugo not knowing how fast Izuku was, as Bakugo would end up slipping on a rock and would try to catch himself with one of his explosions. He'd use his explosion, which would send Bakugo flying into the punch of Izuku, knocking him out completely, just one hit KOing him, as Izuku is crowned the victor of the UA Sports Festival. Izuku would stand at the highest point on the podium, being on the first place block. Bakugo, being extremely pissed off that he lost, would end up being tied up in cement, with Izuku helping with that, along with Cementos, as Bakugo would be completely defenseless, and they'd even have to put a muzzle on Bakugo, as Tokiyami would be in third place. As Izuku would walk back to the UA dorms with many of his classmates congratulating him, as we go to a meeting with the UA teachers, basically discussing if anyone was deemed worthy to move up into Class 1A. They saw two people that could be worthy, somebody in Class 1C and somebody in Class 1B. Kendo and Shinso. Shinso would take the spot of Mineta, while Kendo would take the spot of the Invisible Girl. The Invisible Girl is a good fit for a hero as a stealth hero, but doesn't deserve to be in Class 1A, getting mostly strength training with some of the students with quirks like that. Now you may be asking, but what about Shinso? He has something like that as well, but Shinso is like Aizawa and would need that strength training to also use to his advantage. While the stealth hero does need some strength training, but not as much as someone like Shinso could need. Now Kendo would also move up, taking the spot of Mineta, I think, or Toro, I don't know, one of the two, as she obviously should have been in Class 1A, having a way stronger quirk than most of the people in it, as they would be moved up into Class 1A and would be forced to try to catch up on all the work they missed while they were not in that class. Now, weeks would pass as Aizawa would tell them that they're going to need internships after the UA Sports Festival. This is, say, maybe about 2 days after the sports festival, as the students would wonder what would that mean, as Aizawa gives them sheets for what they would have to, basically, what they need to do as internships, with Izuku seeing that somebody named Night Eye would try to get him to be under, as him being an intern for Night Eye. Izuku would sign up for this, as he'd go to Night Eye's agency. As he would get there, as Night Eye would immediately start questioning Izuku, saying your quirk, it's similar to a villain named Overhaul. Izuku says, Overhaul? That sounds familiar. think it was the name of my quirk or something. Yeah, it was the name of my quirk. As Night Eye would say, do you have any idea who Shei Hasuke is? Zuki says, who's that? As as Night Eye would then start to explain everything about who Overhaul is, and that he leads a mob, or the 8 Perceptions of Death. He's basically a gang leader, with Izuku saying, I was a part of those once, after my mom threw me out on the streets. They just decided to train me because I said I wanted to be a hero, and then they said that I'll have to leave when I was 13 because that the hero world doesn't work well with the mob world. It was really confusing, but I forgot where they were. I'm not sure if that is a connection or something, but it might. I was like, as Night Eye then touches Izuku's shoulder and says, if you have any type of ill intent, I will tell UA and get you arrested. To which Izuku says, but I don't. I just want to be a hero. So Night Eye looks into Izuku's future using his quirk as he says, you will make a great hero. You know me as what I used to be, the sidekick of All Might, correct? With Izuku saying yes, and your quirk is foresight, right? To which Night Eye says yes, and that he just used his quirk on Izuku, and that he saw Izuku will have a great hero career, and that he's sorry for assuming that Izuku was a villain. Izuku would say that it's alright, as he would walk around saying what does he need to do during the internships. From there, All Might would then show what type of training he's helping a student named Mirio is doing, as Izuku would then be put under the same type of training that Mirio has been doing. Izuku would continually do this type of training, as Izuku would then go out on patrol looking for this Overhaul type of person. Now, during the sports festival, somebody was just happened to watch the sports festival that wasn't Shigaraki. It was Overhaul himself, seeing that there was another user with his quirk, and that was pretty interesting. As Izuku would completely just go through his internships completely unsuspecting of what could have happened. Now, Todoroki would end up having saved Ida from the hero killer, with Izuku not even being close to Hosu City, like he was with Gran Torino and Canon. Now, once they all got back, Aizawa tells them that in a month's time, they will be going to the USJ for rescue training, and then that would be their last field trip for the school year before they take their final exams for that year. They'll say alright as they go through classes for a month like normal in training, as Shigaraki is told that Class 1A will be going to the USJ at this specific time. Now, this is the point where Shigaraki starts to gather up his troops and would end up having more Nomus, as they've already thrown out many Nomus for what had been happening, as Shigaraki having now 2 basically medium-end Nomus, which are the ones that faced All Might, would then end up basically going into UA, or as going into the USJ. Now, all the students would end up going to the USJ like canon, as they'd meet 13, as 13 would explain all the rules of what they were going to be doing and all that, as they'd walk in, as a huge portal would reveal, showing many of the same thugs that were going to the USJ, just like in canon, along with the 2 high-end Nomus. Now, this would end up seeing all these villains. Aizawa would jump down, yelling for 13 to protect the students. She would say yes, as Izuku's left to wonder, what were those bird things? They seem awfully strange and look lifeless. As Aizawa is forced to take down many of the villains single-handedly without somebody that could help him. Now, Kirogiri would end up trying to scatter the students all over the USJ, with 13 trying to stop him, only for 13 to be ripped up and left in critical condition, as many of the students are scattered across the arena, one of them being Izuku, as he is sent to the lake zone, with him landing on the boat. Now, he's left to wonder what can he do on this boat, as he can't simply manipulate the water. So what can he do? He thinks until he touches the boat, basically trying to move it, as he disassembles it and then slowly but surely reassembles it in a farther position, starting from the front, and then he'd reassemble the front very, very quickly, basically looking like the boat was moving in a very crappy stop-motion film, as Izuku and the two other classmates there, Shinso and Kendo, would end up being moved into a new zone, or the middle type of zone. Now, you're wondering why wasn't Sue there? Mineta was expelled. He wasn't expelled, he was moved down to class 1C. Now, Sue obviously had research done on her, with Shigaraki having more time to think and plan out the attack, now seeing all of the heroes' quirks, having already watched the UA Sports Festival. So Sue would be in something like the fire zone. Now, they would end up getting to the middle zone completely without a problem, as Izuku would see the Nomus attacking Aizawa. Now, at this point, Izuku would ask Shinso if he can try to mind control Shigaraki, but since they know what their quirks are, Izuku will try to talk to Shigaraki, but it will be him talking. Basically like Izuku mouthing with the Shinso behind him really talking. Now Izuku would yell at Shigaraki, when in fact it was Shinso, and said, "Shigaraki, what are you doing?" Actually, wouldn't know his name, but "Why the hell are all you villains here?" As Shigaraki would answer, saying, "We are here to kill All Might, but he clearly hasn't shown up." As Shinso would then say, "Gotcha," as Shigaraki would go lifeless. As Shinso would then say, "Now tell those weird bird things to stop attacking Mr. Aizawa." As Shigaraki says, "Stop attacking that person," to which the Nomus completely stop attacking them, as Shigaraki then says for the Nomus to come towards Izuku, with Shinso telling him this. Izuku would then place both of his hands on each Nomu, exploding the Nomus into tiny little bits, destroying them, having them not be able to regenerate. As Izuku would thank Shinso for the help with that, as the many heroes would arrive, having been told that the USJ was under attack by the heroes. Now, after this, Izuku would walk back to the dorms, with many of the students thanking him for saving Mr. Aizawa, as he'd say it was no problem, and that he was just doing what any one of them would have done to try to help their teacher. As they'd say, yeah, but those things were crazy. I thought Mr. Aizawa was super strong. Wonder how strong those things were. I mean, the guy did say he was there to kill All Might. It's strange, though, how he wanted to kill All Might so much. As they all agree that it was really strange for Shigaraki's hatred towards Aizawa, completely oblivious to somebody stalking Izuku, which just happens to be Overhaul, as Overhaul would watch what basically his life could have been if he decided to be a hero, as Izuku has the same quirk that he just happens to have. And that's where I'm going to leave it off, guys. I believe this is around a 40-minute video, which is crazy because this is my second 40-minute video I've ever done. Part 2 will probably be out tomorrow, and that might finish the series off. Part 2 will most likely finish this series off, and then I can focus on What If Deku was from the hood, finish that series off, and then do What If Deku had the X-Men's powers, and What If Deku was Mount Lady's son. I thank you all for watching today's video. Remember, go check out the top link in the description, Anime Outlet 2. Thank you all for watching once again, and goodbye.